That's why I am committed to passing a Green New Deal, creating clean jobs, and finally putting an end to fracking once and for all.
Mama Kamala just don't give a frack.
What's going on, guys? We gotta talk about crazed Pennsylvania Senator John Homeless Fetterman. Okay, the guy who loves to show up to Congress with basically no freaking clothes on. They tried to change the rules where he could show up like with hoodies on and all of this stuff, but eventually they changed it back because it was getting a little too ghetto. Okay, it was too hood, it was too raggedy in Congress. So he had an interview today with Kristen Welker of NBC. Okay, Kristen Welker, woke as hell, has a habit of being too wrapped up in her woke ways when she's conducting interviews and always trying to push back really hard on conservatives, which pretty much with damn near all these networks do these days. But with John Fetterman today, they talked about fracking and she tried to press him really hard on it, and this fool just kept answering with dogs and cats. His rebuttal to criticism of Kamala Harris is, well, Trump's talking about dogs and cats. That's his, you know, the thing Donald Trump talked about literally one time is something that the fake news and the Democrats refuse to let up on because they know that this is a failing campaign. Now, I don't know why they think that this is a winning strategy to never talk about issues. Maybe they feel like, well, we talk about issues, we lose, so we're just not going to talk about them. That's the only thing I could think. But I feel like at least try to spin some sort of narrative. They're not even trying to do that. It's pathetic. Without further ado, let's get into it.
I know you've talked about this quite a bit. Vice President Harris, as you know, once supported a ban on fracking when she was running for president in 2020. She even sued the Obama administration to prevent fracking off California's coast. Now she says she will not ban the practice as president. Why should voters trust?
So let me make sure you guys heard that, because I know sometimes, you know, we hear things, it doesn't click. Kamala Harris sued the Obama administration to prevent fracking from occurring. Okay, let's hear that again.
Once supported a ban on fracking when she was running for president in 2020. She even sued the Obama administration to prevent fracking off California's coast.
She sued Obama administration to make sure that fracking did not continue in California. Okay, California is her stomping ground, so it will make sense why she would sue him out there. Now, all of a sudden, in Pennsylvania, she's fracking in chief. She's commander in chief of fracking, okay? She is the fracking queen. She supports fracking. Who is dumb enough to believe this? Like, seriously, I'm so confused about how people believe anything Kamala Harris said. How does a lack of faith in Trump and Orange Man being bad mean that Kamala Harris is good? That logic never made any sense to me. Like, technically, if you dislike Trump, then you could also dislike Kamala. That's a fair thing to do. But to say, well, we don't believe nothing Trump says, but we believe everything Kamala says, is just a very weird level of mental gymnastics that I'll never understand.
Now she says she will not ban the practice as president. Why should voters trust that that is really what the vice president believes?
It's so strange why we just keep talking about fracking. Back in 2020, I said that that might be an issue, but it's not going to be a defining issue.
And look where Fetterman is. Where the hell is this dude filming from? Like, look at this background. Like, is this dude like at a freaking homeless encampment or something? Like, is this dude at like a back alley? Like, is he inside? Is he outside? Like, whatever it is, it looks like the place is falling apart. Look at that brickwork. That brickwork in the corner, it looks a little rough over there, Fetterman. Are you okay? Blink twice if you need help.
And now in 2024, we're still trying to talk about fracking. And now the other side, they're talking about eating cats and geese and dogs and saying absurd things and talking about how if Trump doesn't win, he said that, you know, you have to blame the Jews on that, and just absurd things, you know, like having a serious policy conversation when the other side is just absolutely on fire. And here's where we are, and here we are also that it's going to be very close in Pennsylvania, and it's not going to be defined by fracking.
Well, we are talking about it because, of course, it supported 120,000 jobs back in 2022. Let me read you some of what you have said about fracking. In 2016, you called it a stain on Pennsylvania. In 2018, you said you don't support fracking at all. But then in 2022, you said you absolutely support fracking.
This is damning as hell. How the hell did Fetterman get elected? Who's he going against? Dr. Oz? The people just really hate Dr. Oz or something? I'm confused. How do they get people to come out for the Republican candidate for president, but not for congressional? Like, I just don't get it. And you're talking about a pretty short period of time, too. I don't support fracking at all in 2018. 4 years later, I absolutely support fracking. Make it make sense. This is definitely Kamala's playbook. So, of course, Fetterman is going to gaslight the hell out of his position, gaslight the American people as much as he possibly can, because this is damning. You don't get much more damning than this. They even got the quotes on the damn screen.
Senator, what exactly do you like about fracking now?
It's strange for somewhat weird gotcha, kind of taking quotes out of context. And, here I am now. I'm a United States Senator, and I won by 5 points, a record margin back in 22. And again, it might be an issue in fracking, and I fully support fracking. So does the Vice President Harris. And now if you want to have a serious conversation about policy, then I would challenge Trump and Vance to have one other than talking about eating pets.
And we'll have plenty of questions for Senator Lindsey Graham. There's no doubt about that.
Wow.
But to the point, what do you now like about fracking? You say you're not going to ban it. You support it now.
They're eating dogs. They're eating cats. Again. So, okay. Yes. And any more on fracking? I think.
Well, I want to ask you about the Middle East, actually.
She gave up. She gave up. Like, you know what you should have did, Kristen? Kristen Welker is like, these woke leftists are so ridiculous. This dude, that is beyond dodging. This wasn't a dodge. This was a straight up deflection. Well, I mean, we're not going to talk about policies because they're talking about eating cats and dogs. That's all that they're doing. Fetterman, this dude has no tact because he's not even making an attempt to make it appear as though he's even trying to talk about policy. He's just saying, well, they're talking about dogs and cats, so I shouldn't even have to explain my position. They're talking about dogs and cats over there, so you need to go holler at them. Well, shouldn't you be the adult in the room? Allegedly, since everybody's talking about dogs and cats, it seems to me like you're the one, you brought up dogs and cats as your answer for why you're not talking about policy like 3 different damn times. Do you really think that voters, especially swing state voters, it's going to be a tight race? This is stupid. Like, I don't know why he agreed to come to this interview. He couldn't answer some damn question. But if swing state voters are going to come on and they're going to be looking at you like, hey, so do you support fracking? Do you want to ban fracking? They got quotes with you saying that you're going to ban it. They got videos of Kamala Harris saying she's going to ban it. And then you're going to sit up here and when questioned about it, you're not going to like have a prepared answer. Well, we learned more about fracking. We can do other things to support fracking without damaging the environment. Like, you could say anything, but instead you just want to talk about dogs and cats as your defense. So if somebody brings up the economy, dogs and cats. If somebody brings up the border, dogs and cats. If somebody brings up the extremely high prices, dogs and cats. War in Israel, dogs and cats. That's your answer for everything? Let's not talk about policy. If it's a losing position, no, dogs and cats. That's my answer. It's funny because a lot of the people, even in the fake news, are really hammering away at Kamala Harris on her policy positions, lack of doing interviews, as well as like just in general being an obtuse and hard to pin down candidate, even though she's only got, less than 50 days before the election?
Vice President Harris began the debate by punting the first question on the economy. Despite the economy being the #1 issue facing the country, the sitting vice president generally reverted to talking points about a few of her policy proposals. Even Harris allies today are saying that she needs to talk more about what she will do for Americans if elected. Senator Bernie Sanders will be here in a second to talk about more about the need for her to fill in some of those blanks. On the border, another vulnerable issue for Harris, she also dodged.
Would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
Okay, that wasn't the question. When asked how she would break through the Israel-Hamas war stalemate, Harris said this.
We need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
Okay, but again, how?
When you listen to Kamala Harris on what she will do, you can almost start a drinking game every time she says small businesses. Let me give you an example.
Part of my plan under my economic opportunity plan going forward is that right now, startup entrepreneurs, small businesses only get a tax deduction of $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. So I'm expanding that to $50,000. Understanding, again, that when people have the opportunity to have the resources to get started, they're going to put the good ideas, they're going to put the hard work into it.
Describe the politics of that.
She says that. She also talks about being a middle-class kid. That's also at the front of her answers. If you look at the interviews they've been doing with local media, and they've opened up a bit more since the debate, the first question is often, what are you going to do to lower prices? Which is a very hard question for an incumbent party to answer. And it has implications that are very Trumpian. It is, Trump says he's going to do mass deportation. That'll decrease demand. Trump says he'll explore more energy. That'll decrease energy costs. Democrats can point to the fact that inflation is actually, it was bad 2 years ago. It's not now. What people want to hear is, how do you make the prices go down? So everything she says is something realistic that could survive a fact check that answers a very hard question. There is not a plan to say that we're going to lower the cost of your grocery bill to what it was in 2019. There was a pandemic. There was a money supply inflation. You can't hit the button that makes that go away. But Trump has an answer that gets him through these questions. And Harris, I think, with a different set of incentives and a different relationship to something she can back up in a policy paper, she doesn't have an answer. So she goes to a larger, well, imagine a future where there are more businesses and this starts to ameliorate.
She did not actually make clear at a 2020 debate that she had changed her previous support for a fracking ban. So let me take you through this kind of saga. So here's what she said at a CNN climate town hall in 2019 on the subject of a fracking ban.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
That was quite clear. So she ended her 2020 presidential run in December 2019. The only debate she participated in 2020 was the general election debate with then Vice President Mike Pence. And I went over the transcript of that debate tonight. Nowhere in there does she make clear that she had abandoned her previous support for a fracking ban. Rather, she repeated that Joe Biden, the head of the Democratic ticket at the time, would himself not ban fracking. So listen to what she actually said in that 2020 debate.
Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
So it makes perfect sense that at the time she was speaking on behalf of Biden, the president, not the vice president, sets administration policy. But maybe other people feel differently. I certainly did not hear anywhere in there Kamala Harris saying that she personally had abandoned her previously expressed 2019 view. Rather, again, she was speaking for Joe Biden.
When you got fake Tapper and Dana Trash on your back at CNN coming after you, that's when you know you're in deep ish. Okay, you're in trouble. These woke leftists always cover for the Democrats. So if they're not covering for you no more, oh man, you're toast. You got some serious problems. I think in a sense, they're probably trying to help the Harris campaign to kind of give her hints, her and the campaign hints like, hey, you're doing this wrong. We keep talking to Americans. They're not happy with you. They're trying to potentially vote for Trump. They're talking about not voting at all. It looks like you're going to lose. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should talk to more people. Maybe you should answer the questions about how Americans are better off now, like actually explain it to them. Stop dodging questions on fracking. Stop getting so defensive. Stop deflecting. Answer questions. Come out and do interviews. But she's not going to do that because this is how Kamala Harris has conducted business her entire life, guys. She's never been strong, ever. She's always just lied and sucked her way to the top. Like, literally, that's all that she has done. She has gaslit her way into these positions. She DEI'd her way into the vice presidential position. You don't pick the bottom candidate from the Democrat primaries and just throw them at the top and then expect them to just live up to some amazing presidential candidate expectations. Kamala Harris isn't it. She never was. And everybody's going to find out the truth about her come November 5th when she suffers a crushing defeat, because she never really stood a chance regardless of what the fake news propping her up had to say, and they know it, which is why they're desperately trying to save her. They're throwing a little bit of criticism in there because they know that the gaslighting is not quite working. So they need a little bit more from the Harris campaign in order to complete the gaslighting web of lies. But Kamala Harris and her team are not doing their part. They need another debate in order to accomplish that, and it's not gonna happen. So it's looking like her goose is cooked. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
Reality is, she was one of the strongest proponents of that ban, so much so that when she was in California, she sued the Obama administration over granting fracking permits. Is someone allowed to evolve? Of course they are, but she deserves to explain exactly why she's changed those positions, exactly what her position is. If it's not a ban on fracking, what exactly is it? And that's the kind of scrutiny that's been missing.